It's time for Tech to Remember's Vintage Camcorder Edition.
In this video, we will test and unbox a brand new Aiptek 1080p camcorder from the early 2000s, and I will give you my impressions of this unit. In this video, we will attempt to unbox an Aiptek 1080p camcorder from the early 2000s, and I'll give you my impressions. So who the heck is Aiptek? They were actually founded in 1997 and started making graphic tablets. Only later on, a few years later, did they come out with cameras and camcorders of interesting shapes and sizes. It wasn't until 10 years after they were founded did they come out with the first 720p camcorder. But I actually have the upgraded 1080p model. It also shoots in 720p. But the 1080p is 1440 by 1080, not the 1920 by 1080 we're accustomed to. The very first thing after I finally got it unboxed that I noticed was the battery. And the battery is very small and looks like it's gonna give you 5 minutes or so. It's one of these really skinny batteries. And being that the camera was brand new, never opened from 2007, I was prepared to have another battery on hand because obviously this is not going to work. But shockingly, it actually fired up. I didn't even have to charge it and it started working. And it comes with this nice, cute little lens cap to protect this very small lens. And speaking of the lens itself, even though the glass is like an inch or so across, the lens looks like it's like a little pinhole lens. So I'm not sure I'm expecting great things out of this camera. There is a flash, and here is the record button, which by the way is placed in a really strange place. And it took me a while to get used to it. It's almost flush with the silver here, so it's really hard, unless you know exactly where it is. If you're out in the field recording, you're like, where is this thing?
Pretty lame, huh?
Now what's nice is that there is no on-off button on the camera itself. As soon as you open the LCD screen, the camera fires up and you got this cool blue light to indicate that you've got power going. It feels very plasticky. Well, it is very plasticky. It's light, which is good, but it feels not very substantial and kind of cheap feeling. This little rubber piece that covers the connectors already fell off and broke off. Okay, let's bring it into the real world. Screen is not very bright. Now the camera has no stabilization, so shooting with one hand is going to result in images that look a little like this. Oh, and listen to the sound. For some reason, there's no audio on a Mac. On Windows, you do get audio. Sort of like old movies, right? Without any sound.
If silence is golden, this must be worth a fortune.
Actually, about $42 plus shipping is what I spent. Okay, I'm using two hands now looking down to the city streets, and I've just converted the files to MP4 with audio, so here is the sound.
Auto white balance.
Actually, the sound isn't bad. Image is a little soft, but you get an idea of what this looks like. What I found was that the wide angle is not very wide. Compare this to an iPhone in the wide angle setting. First of all, you can see how different it looks, and look how much wider it is. Here is an iPhone at 50 millimeters in a little bit of a tighter view, and it's still, the Aiptek is even tighter than that, so it is very tight field of view. In 1080p, in 720p it gets wider, but of course the picture isn't quite as good in 720p. It also shoots in standard def, which they call D1, but that doesn't really look too good. Well, maybe that's the look you're going for. There's two focus settings, and there's a switch here for close-up and infinity. It's a little toggle switch. You just have to make sure you're in the right mode, or else your videos and or photos will be out of focus. But no matter what position I put the focus in, I could not get myself clear in like a selfie type mode. So I'm not sure what that close focus does, but if you're further enough away back from your subject like here, I think this looks pretty good. There is a rudimentary digital zoom. Just by pushing up on the joystick, you can go from wide to telephoto, and here is what it looks like. It's kind of like in steps, and it is digital, so the quality isn't great, but it's there if you want it. Now there is a menu with some basic functions like controlling video resolution, etc. There is a night shot setting, and here is a dark room with this camera box without the night shot, except you'll see with the night shot on, when you have motion, it sort of blurs the image. Now as a point of reference, I'm going to compare the low light to a Panasonic FC300 modern camera. This is the Aiptek in deep twilight, and here is the Panasonic. And take a look side by side. That is quite a difference. Aiptek is not a low light champ. But outdoors in regular light, if you're looking for a vintage look, it has sort of like a filmy look to it. Now I took that shaky footage that I shot before and I put it in Final Cut Pro and stabilized it so it made it a little better. It's not perfect, but again, here you can get an idea of what it looks like outdoors in the sun. And there's something kind of creamy about it. It's not very sharp, but it still looks interesting. I think the key is for the record button, just have your finger always on it because it's really hard to find. It's very small. And we'll take a picture and we'll see how well that does. Take a picture here. I kind of think the photos look a little sharper and crisper than the video. Let me know in the comments section if you agree. Really hard to... Here again, I'm trying to do a selfie. You can see it's really tough. My arm is like at full extension here. Still can't get it to focus. That's a stupid smile. So the dedicated photo button is right there on the side. There is a flash, but you have to wait for it to recharge for a few seconds, so you can't take rapid fire shots. The flash is not adjustable and it's very bright, so if you're too close, you're going to get that vintage blowout look in the face, and maybe that's what you're going for, but if you stand back, it looks better. The menu offers some basic adjustments, like sepia, black and white, and that classic look, which are kind of useless, but you can adjust exposure, and that's about the most professional adjustment this camera has. So the camera comes bundled with two sets of video cables. The first is the high definition component cable. Now, for those of you that may not know or remember what this is, before they had HDMI, HD sets, if you wanted to watch in HD, you would have to use RGB cables, and they're color coded for the red, green, and blue signal. So this would go into the HD out or the standard audio video cables. If you have a retro set, this would go into the AV out connector. Now there is some very limited internal memory. You can take about 2 minutes of video. It does use an SD card, and the problem is that you have to use a really old card. I finally found a card that was old enough that would work, because these high capacity cards that they have today, the SDHXC cards, or whatever you call them, it just had card error. So if you are looking for that vintage camera camcorder look with a CCD sensor instead of a CMOS sensor to give you that old school nostalgia look, I'm not sure this is the camera for you. I mean, it's okay. It's kind of bad, which I guess maybe is good, right? If it's bad, it's good. That's kind of the look you're going for. But I think there are badder cameras out there which are actually better. I'm not sure what I'm saying, but if you yeah, I told you I'm not sure what I'm saying here, but if you subscribe, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. I've got a review in the works of two vintage Sony digital cameras, which I think are a lot more interesting than this. So check those out when that video is released, if it's not already out. I also have a ton of videos on vintage camcorders from the 80s and 90s and more to come. So please subscribe, and if you got something out of this video, please do hit like, and I'll see you in the next video. Oh wait, there's no viewfinder. So I'll see you in the next video.
Across the window, make